I always thought I'd die standing. Isn't that what heroes do? But here I was, crouched behind a chunk of ferrocrete that was getting smaller by the second, trying to make myself as tiny as possible while consortium shock troops turned my position into a firing range. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold my plasma rifle. The charge indicator blinked an angry red. 3 shots left, maybe 4 if I pushed it past safety limits. Not that it mattered. Their phase shift armor made hitting them almost impossible, and I'd already wasted half a charge pack trying. Multiple hostiles converging on your position. My combat VI helpfully informed me. Survival probability, 12% and falling. I wanted to tell it to shut up, but that would have meant lifting my head above cover. The remains of my squad lay scattered across the battlefield, their armor punctured by the same impossibly precise shots that had been steadily chipping away at my protection for the last 10 minutes. I thought about my family back on New Madison, about how I'd told them I was going to be a hero, just like in the stories. Funny how those stories never mentioned the smell of ozone and burned plastic, or the way your legs cramp up when you've been holding the same position for too long, knowing that any movement means death. A chunk of ferrocrete exploded next to my head, showering me with fragments. My VI's voice took on an urgent tone. Cover integrity at 23%. Multiple weapon locks detected. Immediate action required. This was it. They were done playing with me. I could hear their heavy footsteps now, that distinctive sound of phase shift armor distorting the air around it. My combat instructor's voice echoed in my head. When surrounded, pick the biggest target and go down fighting. I tightened my grip on the rifle, preparing to stand. If I was going to die, at least I'd do it on my feet. That's when I saw it. Just a flash at first, a streak of crimson against the smoke-filled sky. My VI went crazy, threat assessment protocols trying to process what my eyes refused to believe. The consortium troops saw it too. As one, their weapons shifted away from my position, targeting something behind me. The sound of their phase shift armor changed pitch, going from confident advance to full combat mode. I risked a look over my shoulder. Standing there, backlit by the explosions raining across New Alamo's defensive line, was a figure that seemed to defy reality itself. Power armor gleamed with battle scars that told stories of 100 victories. A Stetson cast shadows deeper than space itself. But what caught my eye, what made my breath catch in my throat, was the cape. Red as blood, it caught the artificial wind from nearby detonations, flowing like water but moving with purpose. As I watched, it rippled and shifted, intercepting shots that would have killed me instantly. The quantum-threaded material didn't just deflect the energy, it absorbed it, the color deepening with each hit until it glowed like a newborn star. My VI's voice cracked with static. Warning, classic combatant detected. Texan Knight signature confirmed. Recommended action, clear engagement zone. The consortium troops opened fire, their weapons cycling up to maximum power. The air itself seemed to burn as hundreds of energy bolts converged on the Knight's position. For a moment, all I could see was that cape, spreading wide like wings of fire, quantum energy crackling along its length. Then the Knight moved. I'd heard stories about how Texas Knights fought, we all had, but nothing could have prepared me for this. The cape wasn't just decoration, it was part of the Knight's arsenal, flowing and twisting with impossible grace, creating patterns that hurt my eyes to follow. Where it passed, phase shift fields flickered and died. Each movement was precisely calculated, every step marked by the blue fire of quantum spurs against ferrocrete. I realized I was witnessing something few infantry soldiers ever lived to see, a Texas Knight in full battle mode. And as I watched that red cape dance through enemy fire like a matador's muleta, I understood why the consortium feared them so much. Because this wasn't just combat, this was art, this was history, this was every story about heroes made manifest in quantum-forged steel and crimson fabric. The Knight hadn't even drawn their weapons yet. The consortium troops were elite soldiers, each one a veteran of dozens of battles. Their phase shift armor could deflect anything short of a capital ship's main guns. Their weapons were state-of-the-art, their tactics perfected through generations of warfare. None of it mattered. The Knight moved with that distinctive grace that every spacer had heard about but few lived to witness. Their red cape billowed behind them, a crimson banner that seemed to catch every explosion's light, making them an impossible target to miss, and yet somehow even harder to hit. "Much obliged for the warm welcome," the knight drawled, drawing their quantum pistol with fluid precision. "But I reckon we all might want to reconsider your position." They didn't. Of course they didn't. The consortium never could resist a challenge. What followed wasn't a battle, it was a demonstration. The knight moved like water through vacuum, each step of their quantum spurs leaving trails of blue fire across the ferrocrete. Their cape flowed behind them like a victory banner, making them seem larger than life as they danced through enemy fire. 3 soldiers tried to flank the knight. The pistol barked 3 times. 3 phase shift fields collapsed with that distinctive sound of quantum bonds being severed. The knight hadn't even broken stride. "Their armor's losing cohesion," someone shouted. "Fall back and regroup." The knight's spurs pulsed with deadly intent. "Son, and wasn't that something, calling hardened killers son? There ain't nowhere to fall back to." That's when I noticed the pattern. The knight wasn't just fighting, they were herding the enemy troops, using their own fear against them. The red cape made them focus on the knight's position, while those quantum spurs carved precise patterns into the battlefield. When the last soldier backed into position, the knight drew their sword. The blade ignited with blue fire, quantum energy crackling along its length. One sweep, almost too fast for my VI to track, and the ground beneath the consortium troops transmuted into pure energy. As the echoes faded and my vision cleared, I saw the knight standing amid the aftermath, their cape settling into a gentle flow behind them. Not a single wasted movement, not a single unnecessary action. Just pure, precise efficiency wrapped in a package straight out of old Earth's hero stories. The knight turned to me, and I felt the full weight of that legendary Stetson shadow fall across my position. "You all right there, son?" I managed to nod, though my hands were still shaking. "Yes, sir. Thank you, sir." Save the sir for parades. The knight adjusted their cape with a practiced motion. In the distance, more explosions lit up the sky. This dance ain't over yet. Then they were moving again, quantum spurs leaving trails of blue fire as they walked, not ran, walked, toward the sound of battle. The cape caught the wind one last time, and for a moment, silhouetted against the war-torn sky, they looked exactly like the heroes from those stories I grew up reading. Later, during the debriefing, I learned that the knight was part of the Crimson Company, an elite unit of Texas knights who wore red capes not for combat, but as a symbol, a reminder of the heroes they descended from, and a promise to any soldier in trouble. Help was coming, and it was wearing Texan colors. That's why I submitted my transfer request to New Texas the next day. Because in that moment, watching that cape disappear into the smoke of battle, I finally understood something important. Sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't a quantum blade or a plasma rifle. Sometimes it's the sight of a hero walking into hell itself, red cape flying, carrying the promise that as long as a Texan knight draws breath, no soldier dies alone. The eyes of Texas were upon us that day, and they were wearing crimson. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave it a like and to subscribe if you'd like to see more. Feel free to comment and share it as well. With all that said, go on and check out the video in the top left. I think you might like it.